Before you try to understand the frequency that creates a new reality, you need to grasp something fundamental. You are not entering new territory. You are merely returning to your origin. Man lives as a beggar within a kingdom that already belongs to him, begging for crumbs of change when he could, in silence, command the world to bend to the state he assumes. This is the great tragedy of human consciousness, forgetting that it is a creator and behaving like a victim. I speak to you not to teach you something, but to remind you of what has always been true, even when you got lost in the noise of circumstances. The visible world is slow, dense, lagging. It only delivers today what your imagination planted yesterday. Therefore, when someone looks around and sees stagnation, lack, illness, rejection, they think this is reality. It isn't. It's just the last echo of an old identity. Material reality is never the starting point. It is always the delayed response of an inner state. You have been living by reacting to the echo, not the source. You have allowed the reflection to command the mirror. And as long as you do this, you will keep spinning in the same spot, believing that destiny decides when it is you who does not dare to decide. There is a frequency, silent, stable, serene, that requires no force, no proof, no intense emotion. This frequency is the assumed state. It's when you stop desiring and start being, when you stop trying to manifest and simply embody the consciousness of what you have chosen. This frequency does not scream, it commands. It does not fight, it establishes. It does not beg, it determines. And everything around it inevitably reorganizes to correspond to it, whether in minutes, days, or weeks. Because the external world has no freedom of its own, it only knows how to obey. But the common man does not know this. He lives looking outward, as if consulting an oracle, trying to guess if his life will change, waiting for a sign, for confirmation, for a divine touch to give him permission to believe. But I tell you, no external sign has authority over what you become internally. The universe does not change you to then allow you to assume a state. It is you who assumes the state and forces the universe to change. This is the natural order of things, the original order, the order that governs all that exists. The internal commands, the external obeys. If today your life seems limited, it is not because the world is limited. It is because your identity still inhabits an old, repeated, worn-out frequency. But a single internal movement, a single act of assuming, is enough for the entire invisible structure to begin to move. The size of the desire, the lack of resources, people's opinions, or even apparent logic do not matter. The world's logic is small compared to the logic of consciousness. Consciousness creates. The world merely follows. This discourse is not for those who want to try. It is for those who want to assume. It is not for those who desire signs. It is for those who desire authority. And authority is not received, it is occupied. Therefore, listen to me with an awakened spirit. You are about to learn 5 principles that function as the invisible gears of creation. If you allow them to enter, not as theory, but as an inner stance, your reality, no matter what it is today, will have to bend. Not by magic, but by law. The first principle is to understand that the frequency that creates a new reality is born not from desire, but from identity. Most people try to change their lives while maintaining the same inner stance, like someone trying to turn on a light without touching the switch. They ask, visualize, affirm, but inwardly they remain exactly who they were before. And that is why nothing moves. You do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you are. The inner state is the true cause. Everything else is a consequence. If you still perceive yourself as someone who needs, who seeks, who waits, then you will continue to receive experiences that confirm this stance. But if you dare to assume the identity of one who already possesses, has already achieved, already lives the desired reality, then the frequency changes instantly. And this change is the silent command that the universe cannot ignore. Identity is not expressed in words, but in the way you rest within yourself. It is possible to say, I am prosperous, while internally you vibrate as someone who fears loss, someone who struggles to survive, someone who does not believe in their own worth. This mismatch between what is said and what is truly prevents manifestation. That is why I say, abandon effort and assume the position. The universe responds to quiet conviction, not to anxiety disguised as positivity. It's not about repeating phrases, but about becoming a new center of consciousness. And when you become, everything around you must reorganize. This principle requires courage because abandoning the old identity means renouncing the justifications you have used for years. It means stopping blaming the past, circumstances, people, bad luck. It means accepting that nothing holds you back, except the state you continue to choose to inhabit. It is easier to say that life is difficult than to admit that you have been living at a frequency that sustains difficulty. It is more comfortable to wait for a sign than to assume that you are the sign. But only those willing to shed this old skin can access the frequency that creates the new. The secret is to realize that assuming a state is not something you do occasionally, but something you become. If you want to be loved, you need to assume the identity of someone worthy and secure. If you want prosperity, assume the identity of one who already possesses it, not one who struggles to achieve it. If you want healing, assume the identity of the healthy, not the patient who waits. It doesn't matter what the physical eyes see. They only reflect the previous vibration. What matters is what you accept as truth within yourself. Identity is the foundation of creation. Every frequency is born from it. And when it changes, everything changes. No effort is needed, only inner fidelity. Sustain the state, and the universe will obey. The second principle is to recognize that imagination is not just an escape or a comfort, but the very field where reality is shaped before it becomes visible. Most people use imagination to escape life. Few use it to create it. But I tell you, everything you experience in the physical world first existed as a sustained inner image, consciously or unconsciously. When you imagine something with acceptance, not as a distant fantasy, but as an intimate fact, you fix a frequency. And this frequency is the invisible cause of everything that will follow. Nothing happens outside before it happens inside. Nothing materializes before it is assumed. This is where many fail, because they imagine merely to see if it works, like someone testing a tool without believing in it. Imagination used in this way creates nothing. Imagination only has power when you enter the scene, when you feel it is yours, when you inhabit it as one returning home, not as one visiting a dream that seems too grand. The imagined scene needs to become as natural as remembering something you truly lived. Naturalness is the mark of creation. As long as you imagine as one who desires, nothing happens. But when you imagine as one who accepts, everything happens. This principle requires subtlety, because it's not about intense visualization, but true visualization. It's not force, it's presence. It's not strong emotion, it's quiet conviction. It is the instant when you close your eyes, and even if the external world denies it, you see yourself living exactly what you have chosen, and your body rests as if it were already real. In this rest lies the seed of manifestation. It is the inner repose that proves to the universe that you are not asking for anything, you are assuming. And do not think that imagination is less than the physical world. It is the opposite. The physical world is smaller, it is limited, slow, rigid. Imagination is free, vast, instantaneous. It is in imagination that reality bends. It is only later that it manifests in time. When you imagine correctly, you send a command to consciousness, "This is my state." And consciousness does not argue. It creates. It organizes circumstances, brings people together, inspires ideas, opens paths. It doesn't matter if you don't see how. The how is always the work of the law. But there is one non-negotiable condition. You must remain in the chosen image without alternating between faith and doubt, between assuming and rejecting, between being and wanting to be. Oscillation destroys the process. Steadfastness completes it. Inhabit the imagined scene with loyalty, and it will become as inevitable as dawn. Because what is imagined with acceptance is already created. It merely awaits the moment of its appearance. The third principle is to understand that external reality is not an indicator of what is to come, but merely a delayed mirror of what you have sustained internally. The most common mistake is to look at present circumstances as if they were definitive truths. But nothing you see now has any authority over what you can be. The visible world is always past, an old photograph of your old identity. And if you react to that photograph, you reinforce the state that created it. This is how many remain trapped in the same life for years, not because the universe limits them, but because they believe in the reflection more than they believe in the source. You must abandon the habit of interpreting external signs as approval or rejection of your desire. Nothing on the outside is telling you if it will work out or not. Nothing is confirming or denying. Nothing is deciding for you. You are the one who decides. The universe merely responds. If you assume a state and then look to the world for proof, you immediately fall out of frequency, because one who truly assumes does not seek confirmation. They rest. They know. They remain. What you see around you is not a prediction. It is residue. It is an echo. It is a shadow. And you should not live reacting to shadows. This principle requires spiritual maturity, because it means you will have to remain faithful to the assumed state, even when nothing seems to change. And this silent fidelity is what separates the creator from the beggar. The creator looks at circumstances and says, "This is merely what I was, not what I am," and remains steadfast in the chosen state. The beggar looks at circumstances and asks, "Will it work out?" And by asking that question, returns to the old identity, and reality remains the same. The material world has its own, slower rhythm. It needs time to reorganize, but make no mistake, the change has already occurred in the invisible realm the moment you assumed the new identity. Manifestation does not begin when it appears. It begins when you accept it internally. The physical appearance is merely the final stage. Therefore, I say, do not be impressed by the delay, nor by appearances, nor by obstacles. They are not signs of failure. They are stages of transition. The old reality dissolves as the new approaches. If you can remain firm in the chosen state, without negotiating with appearances, without yielding to fear, without trying to prove anything to anyone, then the world will be compelled to bend. It has no choice. The law does not fear circumstances. The law does not retreat in the face of challenges. The law merely expresses the state you sustain, and if that state is stable, conscious, and assumed, nothing can prevent its manifestation. Because external reality, however grand it may seem, will never cease to be what it always was, an obedient shadow of your consciousness. The fourth principle is to understand that all true change happens in inner silence, not in the noise of actions. The world teaches the opposite, that to transform your life you need to strive more, run more, do more, fight more. But that is the view of one who does not know the law. Action is important, yes, but it is always secondary. Action is the final movement, not the initial one. It is merely the natural behavior of one who has already assumed a state, not the path to conquer it. When you act to try to manifest, you are asserting that you are not yet. When you act from identity, you are merely expressing what you have already accepted to be. This difference changes everything. The frequency that creates a new reality is silent, internal, intimate. It is born from a shift in the position of consciousness, not from physical effort. When you adjust your inner state, the right action arises naturally, without anxiety, without despair, without doubt. It is not an action to prove, it is an action that flows. And when action flows, it fits into perfect circumstances, because the world is already reorganizing to respond to the new state. Inspired action is simple, precise, and inevitably effective. Desperate action is heavy, confused, and almost always useless. For this reason, many work hard and remain in the same place. They try to build a new life using the old identity. They try to open doors that only open for those who have already assumed the correct posture. Action alone without the right state creates nothing. It's like pushing a wall believing it will become a door. You get tired, frustrated, lose energy, but the wall remains there. Because what opens the door is not force, it is consciousness. Change the state and the wall transforms into a passage. Continue in the old state, and not even the greatest actions in the world will change the structure around you. This principle requires you to develop the courage to act when inspired, and the even greater courage not to act when moved by fear. Fear pushes, firm consciousness leads. Fear pressures, conviction guides. Fear says, Do something now, or everything will go wrong. Consciousness says, I act when I am moved, not when I am threatened. This difference determines whether your action will create or destroy. And remember, the correct action never contradicts your peace. If your action comes from restlessness, it arises from the wrong state. If it comes from tranquility, it arises from the assumed identity. Peace is the proof of the right frequency. Urgency is the proof of the wrong frequency. When you are truly aligned with your desired state, you will notice that the entire world begins to conspire silently in your favor, and your only function will be to move as inspiration calls you, not fear, not pressure, not doubt. The fifth principle is to understand that manifestation does not happen when you see the result, but when you surrender entirely to the chosen state, with no possible return. Most people try to assume a new state while leaving the old door ajar, as if saying, I believed, but if it doesn't work, I'll go back to who I was. This hesitation is the greatest saboteur of creation. You cannot occupy two states at the same time. Either you are, or you wish to be. Wishing is lack. Being is abundance. Wishing looks to the future. Being rests in the now. Wishing implores. Being determines. And the universe only responds to being. In this principle, you need to understand that surrender is not submission. It is authority. It is the moment you close the door of the old identity and irrevocably position yourself in the new. It doesn't matter if the external world still seems the same. It doesn't matter if nothing has moved. It doesn't matter if your mind tries to question. Surrender is the instant when you decide you will not return to the previous version of yourself. It is when you abandon the place of one who waits and assume that of one who has already received. From that point, manifestation is no longer a possibility. It is a consequence. Surrender is silent but powerful. It doesn't come with intense emotion, nor with euphoria. It comes with a strange, almost sacred calm, as if a part of you is saying, it's done. It's already mine. It is this feeling of inner completion that seals the manifestation. It is not the strength of desire, but the closure of doubt. It is not the enthusiasm of imagining, but the solidity of accepting. When you reach this point, something definitively changes in your vibration. There is no more struggle. There is no more trying. There is no more asking. There is only an established state, and the universe hastens to materialize it. But this surrender requires courage, because it means abandoning the habit of checking reality, of looking for signs, of measuring progress. It means trusting the law, not appearances. Most fail because they keep looking outward as if consulting a spiritual thermometer. But when you truly surrender, you stop asking when, how, will it work out? These questions belong to the old state. The new state merely lives, merely is, merely exists, and by existing, it manifests. And there is something even deeper. When you surrender completely to the chosen state, you not only create the new reality, you become incapable of returning to the old version. The old self dies. You no longer identify with lack, with fear, with waiting. You begin to act, think, and feel like someone who is already living what they have chosen. And when the inner state changes at this level, manifestation ceases to be an event and becomes an inevitability. It is only a matter of time until the external world takes the form of what you already are internally. Reality was never on the outside. It was always in the only place you hesitated to look with true authority, within yourself. Everything you called destiny, luck, opportunity, lack, or failure was merely the delayed reflection of states you assumed without realizing it. And now that you know the law, now that you recognize your origin and your inheritance, there is no longer room to live as a beggar before circumstances that should obey your consciousness. From today, you no longer have the right to cast yourself as a victim of what you see, because now you know that what you see is merely the slow shadow of what you once were, not what you are. You have received 5 principles that are not advice, not techniques, not mental tricks. They are laws. And laws do not depend on faith, they depend on application. You know now that identity creates frequency, that imagination shapes the invisible, that the external world is always past, that action without state is futile effort, and that total surrender is the final seal of manifestation. None of this is symbolic, all of it is literal. And if you have the courage to live by these principles, Your life will have to bend. There is no alternative. The world has no freedom of its own. It merely expresses the state you sustain with loyalty. Therefore, abandon any attempt to convince, implore, wait, or seek external approval. Abandon the habit of checking circumstances to see how things are. Stop kneeling before temporary facts as if they were definitive. Everything you see today is just the old echo of what you assumed yesterday, and everything you assume today will inevitably become your future reality. Creation is simple, but it demands inner discipline. It demands that you live as one who has already received, not as one who waits to receive. It demands that you command and not ask. From this moment, make a commitment to yourself. Do not return to the old state. Do not return to the old self. Do not return to the identity that trapped you in cycles of repetition. Close that door as one seals something dead. Choose your new frequency and remain in it. Not because it is difficult, but because it is yours. Not because you desire, but because you are. And when you are, the universe does not argue. It manifests, it delivers, it confirms. Now go, not as someone trying to change life, but as someone awakening to their own authority. You are not asking the universe, you are declaring. And what is declared in inner silence becomes reality in the outer world, because nothing escapes the law, and the law will always obey the state that you, with firmness and conviction, you look at money and think it's something outside of you, distant, difficult, almost unattainable. This is how you were taught to see it, as if it were a whimsical entity that chooses to appear for some and abandon others. But I tell you, with the conviction of one who knows the law, this is an illusion. And as long as you treat money as a stranger, it will remain an outsider in your life. Everything you call reality is merely a reflection of the state you silently maintain within yourself. If money seems absent, it's because deep down you have driven it away. If it seems scarce, it's because in your heart you have seen it as distant. Now, imagine something different. Imagine that money is not a cold number on a screen, but a living presence, like a person who sits at your table, who listens to you, who accompanies you. When you begin to treat it this way, not as an impersonal force, but as a responsive being, everything changes. Because what you treat as alive gains life within you. What you welcome as close draws near. It's not magic, it's law. The visible world has no power to decide how much you will have. It merely bows to what has already been decreed in the invisible. If you speak with despair, money hears you and moves away. If you speak with gratitude and certainty, it inclines towards you and stays. And make no mistake, it is not your bank balance that dictates the tone of your conversation. It's your internal state that decides what will be reflected. Just as the sun doesn't need the cloud's approval to shine, your consciousness doesn't need external permission to decree abundance. The mistake of ordinary people is to supplicate, complain, and beg as if money were a cruel master distributing favors. But I tell you, money is a servant, not a master. It responds to the inner voice with the same precision that an echo responds to a mountain. What you affirm in silence, it returns in form. And if until now you have lived as a slave to appearances, today is the time to reverse the order. For when you dare to speak to money as you speak to an intimate friend, when you receive it with respect, when you call it near without fear, then the material world cannot resist. It is compelled to obey. I tell you, wake up. Don't beg any more for what is already within you. Money is neither enemy nor stranger. It is reflection. It is response. And when you learn to treat it as a living presence, you will see that it has always been waiting for your call. When you begin to understand that money is not just a distant abstraction, but a reality that molds itself to the state you maintain, the first step is to learn to speak to it as if it were already present. Think. When you talk to a person, you don't doubt whether they are there or not. You don't close your eyes and wonder if you'll be heard. You simply speak, and there is a natural certainty that someone on the other side is receiving your words. It is precisely this state of normalcy, of silent conviction, that you must bring to your relationship with money. The mistake many make is to talk about money like someone pleading or someone fearful. They ask like supplicants, murmur like those afraid to lose, and thus establish a dialogue of absence. But I tell you, when you speak to money as if it were already sitting beside you, You activate within yourself the only language the universe understands, the language of assumption. For it is not the quantity of words, nor the intensity of the voice that moves reality, but rather the quality of the assumed state. Imagine thanking money as you would a friend who has just extended a hand to you. You don't look at a friend fearing they will disappear the next moment. You trust their presence, you honor them, you acknowledge the gesture and respond with gratitude. So too with money. When you address it this way, not as a beggar but as a host receiving an expected guest, your mind stops vibrating at the frequency of lack and begins to emit the only vibration that creates, that of already having. Don't be mistaken into thinking this is merely a psychological game. The external world is nothing more than a reflection of the internal. If you speak to money as if to an absent one, you reinforce its absence. But if you dare to speak as if conversing with a present one, you align yourself with the reality where it is already there. Money then finds its way to become visible, because it has already been accepted as existing in the invisible. This is the law. Just as an echo never fails to return the sound you emit, life never fails to return the state you maintain. You might even look at your wallet and see it empty, but if within yourself you speak as one who already has, if deep down you treat money as a living presence, that emptiness is merely a shadow that will soon dissolve. Because the law does not respond to appearance, it responds to assumption. And he who assumes with faith and conviction that he already possesses will inevitably see the material evidence manifest. Many pray, asking for prosperity, but they pray as if supplicating a distant judge. I tell you, that is a waste of time. Effective prayer is one that already contains the feeling of possession within itself. When you speak to money, speak with gratitude, speak with celebration, speak with the tone of one who has already received. For it is precisely this tone that seals the state, and it is the state that the world is compelled to reflect. Therefore, practice this in silence. When you are alone, close your eyes and converse with money as one converses with a travel companion. Say, "Thank you for being here. I know you always arrive at the right time. I feel your constant presence in my life." Do this not as mechanical repetition, but as the expression of a growing conviction. Gradually, you will realize that this practice alters the way you feel, and what begins within expands to shape the exterior. Remember, the world does not create, it merely reflects. And when you speak to money as if it is already with you, you are not deceiving yourself. You are affirming the only reality that exists, that of imagination sustained by faith. This is the first step, and if you take it with firmness, you will see that everything around you will have to bow before the state you dared to assume. The second step arises from a simple perception that most people ignore. There is no separation between you and money. The ordinary person looks at their bank account, sees low numbers and says, "I don't have." But that is the great lie that sustains scarcity. When you declare you don't have, you establish an invisible wall between yourself and what you desire. And since everything in the world is merely a reflection of consciousness, this wall becomes real, blocking manifestation. Money is not outside, waiting for permission to come to you. It already exists, and its presence is attracted or repelled by the state you assume. Think of a child who hears a parent's call. The child doesn't question whether to answer or not. They recognize the voice and respond. So too with money. It doesn't come because the external world brought it to you. It comes because your consciousness called it. It is necessary to abandon the idea that prosperity is a distant privilege or a stroke of luck reserved for a few. Prosperity is an inevitable reflection of those who understand their unity with it. If you see it as separate, distant, unattainable, you will always live trying to conquer what can never unite with you. But if you dare to see yourself as already united with money, as someone who carries that reality within your own being, the reflection will have no choice but to bow to the state you have assumed. Look at the world with different eyes. Every coin that circulates, every transaction, every visible abundance is not a sign that you lack something, but rather a reminder that the same source that moves them resides within you. When you feel separated, the sight of others' wealth awakens envy and resentment. But when you recognize unity, the abundance of others becomes a confirmation of your own. It is not work, nor the market, nor chance that defines how much you have. It is the internal state of union. If within yourself you keep repeating that money is distant, you will live eternally in search. But if you dare to assume that money is already part of your being, you will discover that it begins to flow in unexpected ways, obeying the silent call you maintain. Just as a shadow cannot separate from the body that casts it, money cannot separate from the consciousness that sustains it. If it seems absent, it's only because you've forgotten that it originates within, not outside. Remind yourself every day, there is no distance between me and money. It is part of my life, like the air I breathe, like the sun that warms me, like the blood that flows in my veins. When you finally abandon the illusion of separation, everything changes. Despair dissolves, anxiety yields, and in its place, a silent confidence is born. And it is this confidence that opens space for the world to reflect the union already established. Because money is not out there. It is here, it is now, it is you. The third step arises when you understand that it's not enough to speak or declare. You must feel. Words without feeling are empty, like a body without a soul. You can repeat 1,000 times that you are prosperous, but if within you carry the weight of lack, the world will respond to what truly vibrates in your consciousness. The key is to wear the feeling of abundance, like someone putting on an invisible garment that shapes their posture, their breathing, their gaze. Close your eyes and allow yourself to experience it. Imagine holding banknotes in your hands. Feel the touch, the smell, the weight. Mentally hear the sound of coins dropping, of a cash register ringing up your purchase, of the bank notifying an unexpected deposit. See your bank statement overflowing. Feel the peace of paying everything with plenty left over. Notice the lightness in the body of one who doesn't fear tomorrow. These are not useless fantasies. They are seeds sown in the fertile ground of imagination, and everything conceived there sooner or later is born into the visible world. Don't underestimate the power of feeling. Imagination is the womb of all creation, and what is generated there, enveloped in true emotion, cannot be aborted by the external world. You might even doubt for a few moments, you might even see contrary signs. But if the feeling has been assumed as real, the law is clear. It will have to materialize. It's only a matter of time. Look within yourself and notice the contrast. When you think of lack, your body contracts, your breath becomes heavy, your heart races with anxiety. But when you wear the feeling of abundance, there is an openness, an expansion, a peaceful confidence that no external circumstance can steal. This state is the invisible proof that the invisible has already become flesh. The mistake of many is to wait to feel only after money appears. But that is the biggest deception. The world doesn't bring so that you may feel. You feel so that the world may bring. It is this inverted order that keeps people trapped in cycles of struggle and frustration. But you who are awakening know what matters is not an empty wallet, but a heart full of the certainty of already possessing. Therefore, practice daily, not with despair, but with loving discipline. Allow yourself to immerse for a few minutes in the feeling of already having. Walk as one who carries the security of never lacking. Speak as one who knows they have already been provided for. Decide as one who has overflowing abundance. For the state is not a mental game, it is a living reality that imprints its mark on the body and environment. And remember, the external world has no power of its own. It merely reflects. If the reflection still shows scarcity, don't fight the mirror. Adjust what you feel within yourself. For the vibration of abundance is irresistible. Once sustained, it inevitably attracts everything that corresponds to it. Feeling is the secret language that reality dares not disobey. The fourth step is to understand that you cannot attract what you despise. Many say they want to prosper, but within themselves they carry resentment and distrust towards money. They criticize those who have it, judge the rich as if they were corrupt, treat abundance as something dirty or shameful, and yet they expect money to flow into their lives. I tell you, that is impossible. For what you reject, what you curse in thought, can never remain by your side. Money, like any living presence you welcome, needs to be treated with respect, not as a lord to be worshipped, but as an honored guest to be received. If someone were received in your home with disdain, mockery, and distrust, how long would they stay? So it is with money. If you treat it as a burden, as a chore, as an enemy, it will have no reason to stay. But if you honor it, if you recognize in it the possibility of expressing gratitude, generosity, and fulfillment, it will remain and multiply. You can see this in your own life. How many times have you looked at a bill to pay and muttered in anger? How many times have you spent with guilt, as if the act of using money was something shameful? This pattern is a subtle rejection, an invisible message you send to the universe saying, "I don't want this to stay." And the law, which never fails, responds by pushing money further away. Change begins when you decide to re-educate your inner attitude. Instead of complaining, give thanks. Instead of envying, celebrate. Instead of suspecting, trust. Money is neither a curse nor a blessing in itself. It is merely an expression of the state you assume. If you receive it with disdain, it becomes scarce. If you receive it with honor, it multiplies. Don't confuse respect with idolatry. Idolatizing money is to make yourself its slave, to think that your life will only have value if the numbers are large. Respecting it is to treat it as an ally, as a presence that serves your higher purpose, as an instrument that responds to the call of consciousness. That is the difference between living in anxiety and living in peace. Look within and be honest with yourself. How have you been talking about money? With what feeling do you react when you see someone prosper? If there is envy, distrust, or criticism, there is rejection. And as long as that remains, abundance cannot flourish in your life. But if there is celebration, gratitude, and respect, money will begin to move towards you naturally. Treat money as you would a valuable guest. Prepare space for it. Thank it for its presence. Recognize its usefulness. When you respect it, you not only retain it, but create an environment where it desires to stay. For money, as a reflection of consciousness, is attracted by the field of honor you maintain. And once welcomed, it becomes loyal. The fifth step is to decide to live as one who already has. Most people live waiting for circumstances to change first, and then to change their attitude. They say, "When I have money, I will be generous. When I am prosperous, I will live in peace." But that is the biggest deception. The world doesn't bring abundance so that you may feel prosperous. You feel prosperous first, and then the world is compelled to bow to that state. He who waits never harvests, because he is always postponing the harvest. Tomorrow becomes an excuse not to assume today the posture of what already is. And as long as you live as if you are still lacking, reality has no choice but to show you more of what you maintain. The law is clear. The reflection can only reproduce the image before the mirror. If you see yourself as small, the world will show you small. If you see yourself as abundant, sooner or later, abundance will have to become visible. Living as one who already has doesn't mean going out and spending senselessly. It means walking with the confidence of one who knows there is no lack. It is making decisions without the burden of fear. It is holding your head high in situations that would previously make you shrink. It is speaking as one who has already been provided for, even if there is no sign yet. This inner posture is the key that opens all doors. Look at the men who achieved great fortunes. Before they were rich in the world, they were rich in their internal state. They already saw themselves as worthy, they already spoke as masters of themselves, they already walked with the certainty that they possessed. Money merely bowed to that vision. That is why even in the midst of crisis, some prosper while others perish. It is not external events that decide, but the internal state that each one maintains. If you desire abundance, start now to live as one who already has. Don't wait for your bank account to change to feel free. Feel free and the account will have to change. Don't wait for a raise to feel valued. Feel valued and the raise will come. Don't wait for external signs to believe it's possible. Believe and the signs will come as a consequence. Courage lies in acting as a creator, not as a beggar. The beggar asks and waits. The creator commands and assumes. As long as you live begging for changes, you will remain a slave to appearances. But the moment you assume the position of owner, of master, of someone who already has, all creation will respond in obedience. It's not about theater or deception. It's about maintaining within yourself the only reality that matters. For the world creates nothing by itself. It merely mirrors. And if you walk in the state of one who already possesses, the mirror cannot resist. It will have to show the image you have decided to maintain. Now that the truth has been placed before you, there are no more excuses. You know that money is not a distant enemy, nor a judge who decides whether or not to bless your life. It is merely a reflection of the state you silently maintain. If until today you have lived begging, waiting for something external to change so that you might finally feel prosperous, the time has come to reverse that order. For nothing from outside has the power to create. The power has always been in you and has always been within. Treat money as a living person. Speak to it as you would an intimate friend. Abandon the illusion of separation. Wear the feeling of abundance, honor it with respect, and walk as one who already possesses. These are not empty pieces of advice. They are commandments of the law that governs all creation. The visible world is shadow, reflection, echo. The true reality is the one you assume within yourself, and it is the only one that never fails to project itself. Therefore, I tell you, stop begging, stop waiting, stop looking at appearances as if they were masters of your life. You are a creator, and the creator does not ask permission, he commands. Command in silence, sustain in certainty, vibrate in the assumed state. And the world, however resistant it may seem, will have no choice but to obey. Leave here today with a new attitude, not as someone who seeks, but as someone who already possesses. Not as a servant, but as a master. Not as lacking, but as an heir. For everything already is, and everything is already within you. Money will not come because you beg. It will come because you dare to assume the place from which you should never have departed. The place of one who creates through imagination and sustains through faith. And when this becomes your truth, then you will see that abundance was never absent. It was merely awaiting your call. Listen to me carefully, because there are truths that are not learned, only remembered. And what I'm about to tell you now is an ancient memory, buried under layers of fear, haste, and disbelief. Before you worry about how, when, or why, remember this. You are the cause. There is no luck, no coincidence, no chance. Everything you call life is merely the projection of your consciousness, the result of the state you choose to inhabit, consciously or not. The world is the mirror of your innermost assumption. There are people who spend years studying spiritual laws, reciting affirmations, practicing techniques, and yet they live trapped in waiting. They wait for a sign, an opportunity, an external change. But what they don't realize is that the external world is just a delayed reflection. The secret is not in time, but in the mind that creates it. The reality you experience today is neither God, as punishment, nor destiny, as reward. It is the echo of what you yourself have silently sustained. You can change cities, jobs, or relationships, but as long as your inner state remains the same, the scenery will only change color, the plot will stay the same. Because it's not the environment that transforms you. You are the one who shapes the environment from your feeling. That's why some seem to attract miracles, while others live cycles of frustration. The former understood that everything originates from the invisible. The latter still believes they need to see to believe. But I tell you, the true creator does the opposite. They feel before they see. They assume before they possess. They behave as if they already have it, and the universe, which is faithful to its vibration, hurries to confirm the decree. There is no magic in this. There is law. The same law that makes the seed sprout. Day follow night, the invisible become form. What differentiates the awakened from the unawakened is simple. The awakened understand that they lack nothing. They know that time is not an obstacle, but a tool. That 24 hours is not a limit, but a cycle of response. That what they feel now with conviction will be tomorrow's scene. The unawakened implore, the awakened declare. The unawakened wait, the awakened assume. So, if you want to manifest anything in 24 hours, don't try to force the world. Your struggle is not with circumstances, it is with the habit of forgetting who you are. Because the world does not bend to force but to faith, and faith, child of light, is not waiting for something to happen. It is knowing that it has already happened within you. Now be silent and feel, because what you sustain in consciousness at this moment even if no one sees it, even if nothing changes, has already begun to materialize. And when you truly understand this, you will see that the power that moves the universe has always been in the same place, within you. Nothing in the universe comes to you by chance. Everything that enters your life is the exact result of the state you inhabit, the reflection of what you chose to sustain in consciousness. The mind is the womb of creation, the invisible altar where the invisible becomes flesh. When you understand this, you realize there is no delay, no obstacle, no unjust fate. There is only one law. What you accept as true within you becomes inevitable outside of you. And that is why so many ask and few receive. Because most desire with words, but doubt with feeling. And creation does not respond to the request, it responds to the feeling. While you say, "I want," you are affirming absence. And the universe, which is merely an obedient mirror, returns exactly that to you, the experience of wanting. But when you say, in silence and conviction, "I am," the world bows to the new state. This is the key that separates conscious creators from frustrated dreamers. The former understands that there is nothing to ask for, there is only something to assume. The latter waits for a sign, and the sign never comes because they still vibrate as if they do not have it. It is not time that creates the distance between you and what you desire. It is your state. Because time is not linear, it is obedient. It bends to your consciousness. When you accept something as real, time begins to adjust, people move, opportunities arise, and the scene rearranges itself to reflect your new identity. It is like turning on a lamp in a dark room. The light doesn't fight the darkness, it simply appears, and the darkness vanishes. So too is the change of state, silent, instantaneous, and natural. But the ordinary person insists on fighting with the mirror. They see an undesirable reflection and try to change it from the outside, without realizing that the reflection is merely the result of the inner image. They change jobs, move cities, end relationships, seek new practices. But the pattern persists because the internal state has not changed. Everything changes except the creator within them. And that is why the same drama continues. When you understand that nothing comes to you, but everything comes from you, you begin to live on a different frequency. You no longer ask, you decree. You no longer wait, you assume. And every time you feel with conviction what you desire is already real, you are issuing an order to the universe. It has no choice but to obey, because it is your own extension. So instead of asking, "When will it happen?" ask, "What state am I sustaining now?" Because tomorrow is not by chance, it is merely today prolonged. Everything you are about to experience is already being created at this instant, within the temple of your own being. Everything begins with a silent decision, to assume the state of the end. Because while you wait for something to change, you are declaring, without realizing it, that you do not yet have it. And the universe, obedient, confirms exactly that to you, the absence. The human mind has become a slave to appearance. It believes it needs to see to feel, but the law demands the opposite, to feel to see. When you truly understand that everything is a state, you stop living reactively and begin to create consciously. There is nothing outside of you that determines your experience. There is only what you accept as true within. Every thought sustained with emotion is a seed planted in the field of reality. The harvest does not depend on effort, but on faith. You can struggle, insist, repeat the same desire 1,000 times, but if doubt still vibrates within you, you will be cultivating weeds with the same intensity with which you ask for flowers. The external world is not a judge, it is a mirror. It neither rewards nor punishes. It merely reflects what has been accepted as real. Therefore, when I say assume the state, I'm not asking you to merely imagine. I'm asking you to inhabit the feeling. Live in it as if it were already the air you breathe. Walk, talk, think, and react as one who already is what they desire to be. Because it is this invisible behavior that changes the structure of time. You do not attract what you want. You become what you believe yourself to be. And the world, being merely the shadow of your interior, cannot resist the new vibration. Those who understand this law discover the power of calm. They do not ask for signs because they know that the sign is the last thing to appear. The true sign is the feeling. the peace that comes when you stop waiting and begin to live as if the desire were already a fact. At that instant, the world begins to silently bow. People change, opportunities arise, and everything that seemed distant begins to draw near effortlessly. And that is how the invisible moves, not with haste, but with precision. The one who assumes the state does not fear delay, because they know that time is not a delay but obedience. The universe needs only a mind that knows what it is. Therefore, abandon the role of the beggar and take the throne of the Creator. Every time you close your eyes and feel the scene of the fulfilled desire, you are writing destiny with your own hands. And when you open your eyes, you will see that the world has merely fulfilled the decree born within you. It is not enough to imagine something once and then return to the old state of doubt. The human mind has been trained to oscillate between faith and fear, between desire and distrust, between it's possible and it's difficult. But the law does not respond to doubt. It responds to certainty. Therefore, the discipline of imagination is what separates the conscious creator from the ordinary dreamer. Imagine not as one who waits, but as one who decides. See the mental picture clearly and remain in it until the feeling becomes real. Do not ask the world to convince you. Convince yourself first, and the world will have no choice but to follow you. Most people live observing appearances and reacting to them as if they were permanent. But the awakened person knows that what they see is merely crystallized past, a delayed shadow of an old state. They do not argue with the reflection. They are not impressed by the form. They know that the invisible is more real than the visible, and that the only responsibility they have is to remain faithful to the new state, even when the old one still screams. This fidelity is the test, and few pass it. While the ordinary person asks for signs, the Creator creates them internally. They close their eyes and walk within the completed scene. They feel the touch, hear the words, breathe the air of fulfillment. They do not imagine from the outside. They enter, live, and lose themselves in the mental reality. This is how imagination transforms into conviction, and when conviction is total, the physical world becomes merely the natural consequence of the invisible. This is true prayer, not words but state. When you imagine with feeling, you are praying in spirit, and spirit is the only language that reality understands. You can deceive others with words, but you cannot deceive the field that surrounds you. It responds only to the vibration of your being. Therefore, if you wish to manifest in 24 hours, do not seek haste, seek intensity. Sustain the image until the body and mind obey the new internal climate. And when you emerge from this moment of imagination, do not look for signs. Your only task is to maintain the feeling of possession, even if the world says otherwise. Because every time you doubt, you return to the old state, and every time you persist, you solidify the new. The world, being obedient, can only reflect the most persistent state. Therefore, remain firm. Live as if what you desire were already an accomplished fact. Time is merely the servant of your belief, and it will not fail to prove you were right to remain faithful to the invisible. No desire can flourish in a heart consumed by fear. Fear is the veil that separates humanity from creative power. It does not destroy desire. It merely weakens, distorts, and transforms it into doubt. And every doubt is a disguised order for the universe to continue denying what you ask for. That is why many try to affirm the new state, but carry within themselves the vibration of the old. They want to manifest abundance, but still feel guilt. They want to manifest love, but still judge themselves unworthy. They want to manifest healing, but still believe in pain as part of who they are. As long as these contradictions exist, creative power will be divided. And a divided mind does not create, it merely oscillates. To purify feeling is to cleanse the temple where God resides. It is to silence the inner voices that say, I can't, I don't deserve, it's difficult. It is to replace every thought of resistance with a simple act of trust. Because creation does not demand effort, it demands surrender. The river does not fight to flow, it merely follows its natural course. So too is the flow of manifestation. When you release fear, power circulates again. When you forgive, the energy that was trapped in the past is released and begins to work in your favor again. Pure emotion is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is not thought that creates, it is sustained feeling. Thought merely directs. Feeling gives life. You can repeat an affirmation 1,000 times, but if it is not felt, it is merely sound. The universe does not hear words, it hears vibrations. And a vibration is born from what you truly accept as truth. Therefore, if you wish to change something, do not fight against what you feel. Transform the feeling through consciousness. Close your eyes and imagine that your desire has already been fulfilled. Feel the lightness of certainty, the peace of no longer needing to wait. This sensation is the sign of perfect connection. Remain in it, even if the world still shows the opposite, because at that instant you are already creating in the invisible, and the invisible is always the first to respond. The mistake of many is to try to manifest while still carrying within themselves the memories of failure. They want the new, but continue to identify with the old. The awakened creator understands the past is not an obstacle, it is merely a story that can be rewritten, and they rewrite that story not with words but with feeling. They consciously choose to feel something different, and it is this choice that breaks the cycle. Thus, fear loses its power, guilt dissolves, and desire finally flourishes. Pure, complete, and inevitable, persistence is the supreme proof of faith, because it is easy to believe for an instant, but power only manifests when belief is maintained even in the face of silence. Most give up halfway, not because the law failed, but because they looked back at the old reflection and doubted. The reflection, however, is not a sign of error. It is merely the echo of the previous state, and the echo only ceases when the new sound is sustained without interruption. So is creation. The world bows to the most constant vibration, not the most intense. When you persist in the state of fulfillment, even without evidence, reality begins to adjust silently. The right people appear, paths align, doors open, and none of this is coincidence. It is the consequence of your inner persistence. Because faith is not emotion, it is posture. It is to remain firm even when the whole world seems to deny what you know to be true. The universe does not test your strength, it confirms your conviction. Every apparent delay is merely time asking you, do you still believe? And the Creator responds with silence, the silence of one who already knows what they are. You do not need to force the new to happen. You only need to refuse the old. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding the past. What is not fed, dies. And what is sustained, flourishes. This is how the invisible works, not through haste, but through constancy. Therefore, persist. Even when everything around seems the same, persist. Even when the mind tries to doubt, return to the feeling of the fulfilled end and persist. The person who masters the art of persistence becomes invincible, because the world cannot resist one who does not give up the state they have assumed. They walk as one who has already won, speak as one who already possesses, act as one who already is, and without realizing it, time bows before them, obeying the vibration they have sustained. Persist, and the universe will move for you, because what is real within you becomes law outside of you. Time cannot deny what consciousness has decreed with faith. There is no obstacle, no delay, no chance. There is only the reflection of what has remained firm within you. When the world seems motionless, that is when it moves the most. When nothing seems to change, that is when everything is adjusting. So, quiet the fear, silence the haste, and sustain the end. Live within it until it becomes your home. And when you realize it, the miracle will already be before you, not as something that arrived, but as something that always was, and that time merely revealed, because you had the courage to persist. Now understand, life owes you nothing. It merely returns to you what you sustain within. No miracle comes from outside. Everything is born in the silence of consciousness. The ordinary person lives as a beggar, waiting for the world to favor them. The awakened creator, on the contrary, gives orders in silence and sees the world obey. Because they understood that faith is not supplication, it is command. That true prayer is not asking, it is assuming. That change does not come from effort, but from certainty. Everything you experience is the echo of what you were capable of feeling is real. When you understand this, doubt becomes useless and fear loses meaning. You no longer implore for change, you decree it. You no longer ask for signs, you create them. You no longer wait for time, you mold it. The difference between the unawakened and the awakened is only one. The former lives reacting, the latter lives commanding. One serves appearances, the other makes appearances serve their state. You were born to dominate, not to implore, to create, not to wait. Within you dwells the same power that ignites stars and moves seas. But this power only manifests when you stop doubting. The universe does not respond to your haste, it responds to your certainty. And certainty is silent, unshakable, firm as a rock. Therefore, from this moment on, no longer behave as a servant of circumstances. Assume the position of master of your own destiny. Close your eyes and feel the end fulfilled. Feel the peace of one who has already received, the gratitude of one who already possesses, and then walk in the world with this conviction as your invisible crown. Do not ask the world to change for you to believe. Change yourself first. Do not seek proof. Be the proof yourself. And when you do, you will see the impossible bow before you. Because the world is merely the stage, and you are the actor, the author, and the creator of every scene. Remember, child of light, everything you seek is already within. Nothing is missing from you, nothing is denied to you. The power is yours and always has been. Use it with consciousness, with love, and with authority. And the entire universe will silently bow to confirm your word.